Hi everyone, I'm Christine Keller of Chris Art Creations. That's CHRIZART.com. You'll be able to find my website online. I do have a lot of nice product up there. I'm here to talk to you today about what it means to be a full-time jewelry designer and craftsperson. I've been doing this full-time since 2012, but first of all, let me tell you a little bit of my backstory, and then we're going to talk about how I made the transition from a full-time job into being a full-time artist. And hopefully, maybe what I'm talking about can help you if you are interested in following this path. We'll give you some pointers on how to do that. All right, so first of all, I've been creative since the time I've been little. I probably crocheted my first Afghan by the time I was 8, made several more past then. I moved into crochet work and embroidery work and needlepoint, cross stitch. Then I moved into painting. I did oil painting and I did acrylic painting, did that for a good number of years. In 1994, I picked up another hobby that I absolutely loved, and it's called wood carving, and I use Dremels and I carve, and I still carve even today. So I've been carving for, well, going on 30 years now, so something I really love. And I'm going to show you a few of my carvings, just because I can. This is one of my Santas. I do full body Victorian type Santas. I love them. It's one of my things I love. I keep a lot of these because they take so much time. People don't understand the time that goes into something like this, but when you're carving it around like this, you have anywhere from 20 to 40 hours just carving this out. So here's a shepherd. And I'm doing a series also, and I'm actually doing this right now, and hopefully throughout the next year and a half or so, it'll take a while, but I am doing a series of faces in Cypress Knees. This one's called Abner. I'm going to start at A and work my way through the alphabet, and everyone's going to have a name. This is Abner. He will probably be going up online after I get a few of his friends, and we'll put him up there. You can also find some of my wood carvings online, though I don't have a lot up there because I am more focused on jewelry. My wood carvings are something I like to do when I want to switch things up. So from 1994, I would carve for a lot of years and always was learning new crafts and new ideas throughout this whole time. And in 2007, we moved to West Virginia, my husband and I ended up taking pottery classes at the local art gallery in Elkins. And what I did was I took a series of probably 4 to 5 classes, which each class were about 6 weeks long in length, and I learned pottery. So I have a full kiln, a big kiln, and I also have the pottery wheel outside in the shed, and I do mess with pottery once in a while. If I'd stuck with pottery and put all the time in it that I have put in jewelry, I'd probably be super, but I never did get really great at throwing. However, at the end of one day when I was playing with clay, I came up with I had these little pieces of clay left over, and I didn't want to just throw them away, and I didn't want to pack them away because it just wasn't worth it. So what I did was made little cabochons. Well, I let them dry, put them in the kiln, and what I did then is I fired them. And when they came out, I thought, oh, these are kind of cute. Let's glaze them. And I ended up throwing melting glass inside of them. And when I did that, they came out as these really cool little, I call them glass geodes. They look like a geode stone when you crack it open. It has all these crystals in it. Well, this was glass and it was in a cabochon. I even had a person argue with me at a show, tell me she knew what a geode was and this is what they were. That's why I started calling them glass geodes. However, I know they're glass. It wasn't a stone that I was selling because I made it. Anyhow, I started wire wrapping these because they were so pretty and I wanted to do something with them. So I started wire wrapping and I made pendants out of them and I started selling them. Well, then I started wire wrapping everything I could get my hands on, from buttons to old jewelry to stones to whatever. And it just kind of took off. I ended up journeying into Tamarack. I was turned down because of some issues that I needed to learn. And that's always a good thing, to take that criticism and learn from it. What happened with that was actually the best thing that could have happened, because I ended up getting mentoring classes with a world-class master wire wrapper out of Hurricane named Bill Crouch, who helped me learn what I needed to learn. And basically what I needed to learn was that I needed better tools, because the tools that I had were leaving tool marks on my wire, whereas if you have the good tools and you're using them right, you don't do that. So I took a few classes with him, and it just jump-started me from where I was when to the next time I went to Tamarack to jury, they couldn't believe it was the same work, the same person doing it. So I did get into Tamarack at that point, and I've been in Tamarack probably since 2008 or 2009. It's been a long journey. And in the last 5 years, I've probably been their top jewelry seller down there. In the last 5 years, nine chances out of 10, almost every year, it's been either me or one other person. We kind of switch back and forth who sells the most down there. So I've been doing well through Tamarack, and I just appreciate all that they do stand for. But what I also wanted to talk about is, at that point, I went from just wire wrapping. I took silversmithing classes, so I started to make pieces where I was actually using the big torches and soldering things together. Pieces like what I'm wearing, like this is silver and copper, and yeah, just copper and silver on this piece here. So I like to mix the metals. I like the brass, copper, and silver together. I think it just really adds something. I also work just in silver when I'm doing things. This is one of my newer little pieces, which is, oh, get your little tail right. This is two cats that are sitting looking at the moon. And there we go. Sitting looking at the moon. I don't know if you can see them. They're cute. I made the chain. I made everything on the chain. This is red jasper, and it's also got little turquoise in it. And then it's on copper. I did all the soldering on it, like putting on the back pieces and everything like that. I also created this piece, which I don't have a chain yet, which is a mountain scene on front of a lake with the little stars and a moon in the background. I also work on pieces, like I said, just silver. I like to combine all of the things that I've learned, from carving to wire wrapping to silversmithing, and make my own unique pieces. So this is one of the pieces that I call my silver expression line. What I do with this is, when I have odds and ends and scraps of silver, I will melt them together and fuse them and make these back pieces that are really, really cool. Every piece is different. Now this piece here is fluorite. I don't think that you can see the color in it, but it has greens and purples and everything in it. And then it has some opalescent glass on it. For more of my work, I'll put up some more pictures here for you to look at, but I also just wanted to show you that I do a lot of different crafts. And then something else that I started to do just recently was needle felting. And I thought, well, I like needle felting because it's kind of like carving, only I'm building up. Instead of taking wood away, I'm adding things to it and making a sculpture. And I'm doing this because it's something I can do sitting down at night without getting so messy, because when I'm carving, I am wood chips from top to bottom. So this is one of the sculptures I just did. This is my Canada goose. He says hello. He's got a pretty little thing on here, and he's got this gnome that is riding him. He's got his little bag of gathering goodies. He's been in the forest and he's been collecting things to take home to eat and for his fire. He's got his coat made up of leaves, and his hat's made out of a leaf. So they're just a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing that as something to keep me fresh in the jewelry field, because what I do is, when I get in the jewelry, sometimes I just need a break from it. I'll go do another craft, and then I'll come back to the jewelry, because what that does is just refreshes me and helps me to stay creative in what I need to do. So I was working a full-time job, very high stress. It was in advertising. It was for a local cable company, and what I was called was account executive. So what I would do is, I would go into businesses and I would pitch them a package. I would be in charge of having their commercials filmed and picking out where their commercials ran, like on ESPN or US Today or CNN, Fox News, whatever, and schedule where their commercials would run. I would be in charge of writing the commercial if I wanted to, if they didn't want to do it. And I would just had a lot. It was a high pressure job, something that anybody in sales can relate to, because it is known as one of the top high stressors of jobs. It's up in the top 5% of all jobs in the nation is sales. So what I did is, I did that for 5 years, and I came to find out later that 5 years is about when you burn out of the job like this. It's one of those jobs where you are very focused and you have to really put a lot of time into it. And it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. It comes into more like 60 hours a week. You're working on it at home. And I got to the point where I was really just getting burnt out with this. But I was making jewelry all through this time. And I would wear my jewelry when I was out to customers and clients. And of course, I'm dealing with business leaders and business owners. So what happened is I had over 18 shops at that time that was carrying my jewelry. And a lot of these contacts were for people I made from work. And then there were some others that had saw my work and wanted to carry it, that I had pitched it to. And I knew that at that point, I could not take my jewelry any farther unless I quit what I was doing and went full time. So in 2012, I gave up the day job and I went full time into jewelry. Now, I did work to get myself here. One thing that is important, if you want to do this full time, make it easier on yourself and try to position yourself so that you have every chance of success when you do take off and when you do decide that you're going to pitch this or you're going to do it full time. I made sure, and we worked at it, my husband and I, to get as debt-free as we could before I left that job, because we didn't know just how much income would be coming in or how much would be flowing or whatever for a while. And thankfully, we got as debt-free as we could before I did this. So that took a lot of stress off of me trying to make this work. But I'll tell you a few of the things that I did in order to really push this forward and to make this transition easier. I started this before I even quit the full-time job. It's called the principle of 5. You do 5 things a day, just 5. 5 things a day to further your dream. Now, these might sound like a lot when you're busy, but 5 things a day really doesn't have to be that time consuming. It could be something as easy as writing an email to somebody that you've been putting off, writing an email to a shop that you would like to purchase your work, or writing an email to ask another artist, what did you do here? How did you do that? It could be watching a YouTube video on your craft. It could be practicing your craft or working on whatever you're doing. It could be any of these things. But if you do 5 things a day, it adds up. Just think about it. 5 things a day times 30, which is a month, you've got 150 things that you've done within that time to get your dream farther down the road and to make your dream a reality of becoming a full-time artist. And in a year, when you take that, you times 150 by 12, then you're gonna end up with like 1,800 things a year that you've done in order to get your dream farther ahead. So don't look at it in the short term like, oh, I'm just gonna quit my job and I'm just gonna do this. Set yourself up for success. Set yourself up. Like I said, try to make it as easy as you can. Figure out what you're going to need in order to survive as far as money. Figure out how you're going to get that, and then work toward it by doing your 5 things a day. Keeping a right attitude helps, because we know that if you tell yourself you can't and you won't. And if you tell yourself you can and you will. So make sure you keep your attitude right. It's really easy to fall into that trap of, poor me, I can't do it. They're just lucky. They've had overnight success, which, let me tell you, overnight successes are never overnight successes. If you look in the backstory of many of these people who are successful, they worked at it years and years and years, and what seems like an overnight success actually was years in the making. So don't believe in your mind that, oh, it'll never happen for me, because it can happen for you. If this is what you want and this is your passion, then do it, because then your job will no longer be a job. It'll be your passion, and it'll be a life, and it'll be just so much better for you and healthier for you also, because when you're not stressing against something that you don't like and you're doing something you actually love, it really does help your whole mental health and your whole situation. And then I want to talk to people about being professional, because this is something, as president of the gallery, I see artists have an issue with when they're bringing items in to get juried into the gallery. Present your work in a way that it would be sold in the store. So if you're a painter, when you're bringing in things to be juried, make sure they have a way to be hung on the wall. Make sure they're framed if they're going to be sold framed. If they're not going to be sold framed, then make sure that they're in the sleeves, like you often will see people have them in sleeves in stores where they're selling just prints or duplicates of a print that they have done. So make sure that they're presented in a way that they would be sold in the store. You want your work to be professional and look professional. Believe you me, when people are jurying your work and they're seeing that, it elevates it in their mind. You want to be able to have your work presented in a way that you're going to be able to sell it. So make sure you do that. And then also, I want you to realize, okay, your work might not be for everybody. I cannot begin to tell you the number of people who look at my jewelry and says, oh, well, it's nice, but I couldn't wear it. It's too big. I don't like it. It's too big. I need little dainty whatever. I'm not little dainty jewelry maker. I love big statement pieces. I love big earrings. This is what I like. For me to make a small piece of jewelry, and believe me, I can and I have, but it takes me a lot more work to think of that and to do that rather than make a big statement piece, because this is who I am and this is what I like. And I realized that, you know what, it's okay. I have a client market that loves this kind of stuff too. And if you like to make little stuff, you'll have a client market for that. There is enough buyers out there for everybody that we don't have to feel like we are competing with other artists. We should be encouraging other artists to get their product out there and to be able to push it out across the whole United States, because we have something called the internet. The internet really helps artists in a way that has never before been pushed, because, you know, up until 20 years ago, this was unheard of. And now it's easy for anyone to be able to get on the internet, to search somebody and to find an artist or their work. Make sure, if you're doing it full time, that you do have yourself a website built, either an Etsy shop or a website, but somewhere that people can go and look and find your work, because you can bet your life they're going to Google you and they want to see if you're a serious artist. And believe me, perception these days is if you don't have a website or if you're not selling your work online, you're not a serious artist, and you don't want that perception out there, especially if you're going to be doing this full time. So work on a website. Like I said, doesn't have to be whatever, but you do have to have a web presence, and you have to have a way that people can go and look at your work. It'll just add value to your work and value to you as an artist. And like I said, your work's not going to be for everybody. What you need to do is figure out your client base. Who are your clients? Are they young people? If they're young, then you might want to start putting everything up on Instagram, because Instagram reaches a younger demographic. Are they older? Older people like the baby boomers or women from their 40s to their 60s, you might want to use Facebook because it's an older demographic. Figure out who your clients are. What we have is the ability now to target them. So make sure you know who you're selling your work to. And then there's this. If you are going to wholesale your work, and this is important, people, if you're going to wholesale your work, you need to figure out your prices beforehand, so that when you're retailing, anything that you have, that you are showing or you have on your site, can be also wholesaled. Because what you don't ever want to do is get your work into a gallery and then be undercutting their prices online or at shows constantly. Because if you're doing that and the gallery finds out, you are going to lose business. You are going to lose their business. Galleries have a lot of overhead to cover. They've got, you know, the rent, and they've got the heat, and they've got the employees, and it's a lot that they have to cover. So make sure, if you're going to wholesale, that you have your retail price figured, and it's the same across the board no matter where you are. That'll help you a lot right from the get-go to do that. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do you figure your wholesale, your retail price? Well, there is just a basic rule of thumb that I use. Sometimes I bump it up a little, sometimes I might knock it down a little. It just depends on the piece. But the basic rule of thumb is this: figure out the cost of your materials, okay? And then figure out what you want to be paid an hour and add that to it. Now, what I do is, this is how I figure it. I take the basic cost of materials, and let's say it's $10. Okay, so I'm going to double it to 20. Okay, so right now the wholesale piece is 20. I might want to be paid $20 an hour, and it took me 15 minutes to do this. So we'll add 5 to it. Okay, so believe me, I'm figuring this easy for you. So that would be $15. So now I'm paid for my time and I'm paid for my materials. Oops, I'm sorry. That would be $20 for the materials because I doubled the material cost. $5 for my time, which is $25. Okay, so that's going to be my wholesale price, $25. So that piece retail would be at least $50. So that's how you need to figure it, so your costs are all covered, so you can still give percentages off and still be making money, whatever. It's just a simple rule. Like sometimes you might look at a piece and say, well, this is worth a lot more than what that price is coming up. You might be able to add on some money. That's fine. Do that. It also works the other way. So what I'm just telling you is this is just a basic rule of thumb. It just gives you a loose guideline to follow so that you're not losing money. Because you have to be able to cover your costs also, because even selling online and having your own website, you have all the costs involved in that, and you have the costs involved in your advertising for it and whatever else you're going to do to push it. And something I learned from advertising, which might be good for you all to know, is that you can visit a person 5 times and ask them, would you like to purchase this package? Would you like to carry my work? Would you like to see what I have? Blah, blah, blah. Generally, you will get 5 no's before you get a yes. That is just pure whatever. They've done studies on this, and you often will get 5 no's before you'll get a yes. So think about that, because even when you're pitching your work, people might look at it 5 times before they say, no, 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 no. You know what? I really like that. I'm going to get it. I've seen it enough. It's been around. It's not a fly-by-night thing. I want it. Remember that. A lot of times it takes 5 times for somebody to see something before they actually say, yes, I'll buy it. So don't give up. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you about a bunch of my work. I'm going to put some slides on here so that you can see some of my work and what I do. What I want you to do is, if you're interested in becoming a full-time artist and you have any other questions that you would like to ask me, then I want you to make sure that you email me at ChrizArt4U@yahoo.com. So it's ChrizArt, the number 4, the letter U @yahoo.com. If you have any questions on, hey, Christine, how did you do this? Or Christine, how did you deal with that? Please send me an email and I will answer your questions. In the meantime, if you're looking for any jewelry and you want one-of-a-kind art jewelry, make sure to check out my website at ChrizArt.com, which is ChrizArt.com. I look forward to talking to you all in the future. I hope that some of these pointers that I've given you have been a little bit of a help. And we look forward to talking to you again. See ya. Bye.